to the REMAX Real Estate Insight Show, and I'm your host, Jeanette Schneider. June is the annual Parade of Home Month, and that provides us an opportunity to tour any of the 82 new construction models that are available this year. We're actually broadcasting live from one of the models on this year's tour to talk new construction. Everything from what makes the process a little different from buying an existing home to what are the trends in new construction these days. Joining me now is Nathan Boji. He is the manager for REMAX Classic. Welcome to the show, Nathan.
Thanks, Jeanette. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So let's start with one of the most common questions we get, and that's really, how is buying new construction, different from buying an existing home?
Yeah, so the biggest difference is when you're buying an existing home, the home is there. And in new construction, it has to be built in most cases. So there's a process in which, you have to go through of selecting what lot you're going to build a home on, all the things that you're going to have go into it, the design, the floor plan, the layout, all of these types of things, which equate to time. So the biggest difference is the time that it was going to take to complete your transaction in most cases. The wild card to that with new construction is what's referred to in the industry as a spec build. So It's a home that the builder has started and is in some process of the build. It could be just framed, it could be drywalled, it could be nearly completed, and you may have an ability to pick out a few finishes such as flooring or something like that. If you find one of those, if you find a spec build, then your timeline might be a lot shorter. But in most cases, you're building a house. It takes some time.
Speaking of time, on average, and that's a dicey question.
Yeah,
how long does
question.
it? Yeah, how long? If I were to say, okay, today I'm making the decision on buying new construction, and I start to meet with the builder. From that point to get a home built, what are we looking at these days?
So the way you'll see it described in most cases is anywhere from 7 to 10 months from permit.
Okay.
So that's an important thing to understand, is that from permit standpoint, because there's a lot of things that lead up to the builder getting a permit to build your home. So you're going to sign your purchase and building agreements, you're going to do your selections, you're going to have all those processes take place. They're going to submit all the plans and everything to their engineering department and to the municipality. And then after they finish their process, a permit will be issued to build your home. So that leading up until the permit's built could take a few weeks at a minimum. And then you've got, somewhere 7 to 10 months from then to the point where you're getting keys.
Okay.
So that's about the time frame that we're seeing. For us, our developments, it just varies. One of our developments, we're pretty much on the money for 7 months. Mm-hmm. Other development, we're at about 10 months. And it just, factors in the municipalities that we deal with. And then being that we live in Michigan, we all know it's been raining nonstop for, since January. So that's been a factor.
Well, and you touched on two things I was going to follow up on is there can be some, I don't want to say challenges, but differences from city to city, as far as the communities that you're dealing with to get permits and things of that nature.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a whole different process. The basic process is the same throughout. However, some may be more automated, more technology driven, to where they can turn around, an approval on an inspection instantly. Inspector comes out, they bring out an iPad or a tablet or something of that nature. They perform the inspection. They process it right there on the fly. The builder gets their, approval immediately.
Right.
Other municipalities, it might be a little bit more traditional in the sense the inspector comes out, he writes up a report, he goes back to the office, he submits it, they sign off on it, and then the builder gets the okay. And that sometimes takes time. So every place is a little bit different. And then you factor in weather. That's the one thing that nobody can control.
No.
It affects,
that we could, right?
Right. Yes. It affects everything, though. If you're trying to frame a home and it's snowing like crazy or torrential downpours, it's really tough for those guys to work, and it's not safe in most cases. So they will take a step back. They'll wait till it clears up a little bit. They'll do what they can. And then, that all adds time. And that's, again, going back to that big difference between existing home and new homes.
And I've heard from a couple of different folks, that this year, like you've indicated, it's been a very wet year, and it has impacted new construction and timelines.
Yeah, it definitely has. You can't put in landscaping when it's, the ground is soaking wet because it just won't take. It's very hard to work with. A lot of the different contractors, the masons and things like that, their job's tough to begin with, but it's even tough when you're working in mud up to your knees, you know.
I would guess so. So I mentioned that June is Parade of Home Months. We're sitting here in a model that you have in Canton right now. Yep. If there's some folks out there listening that are thinking new construction, maybe they haven't made up their mind, maybe they have. Sure. How can they take advantage of this Parade of Homes event to, maybe to their advantage?
Yeah, so a couple of ways. One is the Home Builder Association that puts on the Parade of Homes. They do a great job of putting together all the information of a bunch of different communities. As you said, I think there's 82 that are participating in the Parade of Homes. So one, getting one of the booklets, getting online at the Home Builder Association's website and finding out what communities are out there, and then getting out and taking a look at the different model homes for the builders that are participating, and speaking with their representatives at the model homes and learning more about the community. That's the big thing, is you can use the Parade of Homes as a great time to educate yourself as to what's going on. Yeah,
so it's okay to ask questions, and you should assume, if I'm a consumer, if I'm going into these models, whoever's sitting there, they're knowledgeable, and go ahead and ask them questions about this.
Absolutely, yeah. You want to ask as many questions as possible, and whether that person may not be able to answer every single question that you have, they may be able to answer the majority of them, but then they might have to get some clarification on a couple things. However, take the time to ask the questions, because it's a lot easier to ask before the home is built than to go back and
get it after the fact. Yes. Well, Nathan's going to stick around, and after a short break, we're going to continue our conversation about new construction, maybe talk a little bit about what's popular in trending in designs today. And later, we're going to invite you to join us for a fundraising event that's open to the public at Top Golf. That's going to raise money for CMN Hospital and local kids. Whether you're looking for new construction or an existing home, it can be a little stressful. Don't worry, REMAX agents have done this millions of times. You can go to REMAXRealEstateInsights.com to search for your perfect place or an agent near you. Stay tuned for more REMAX Real Estate Insights here on 760 WJR. To the REMAX Real Estate Insights Show, and you can always find us at REMAXRealEstateInsights.com or on our social channels at REMAX Insights. We are talking about new construction homes, and buying a newly built home certainly provides some exciting options that may not be available when purchasing an existing home, but it also creates some additional details you want to be prepared for. And then, of course, new construction provides an opportunity to have the latest features and capitalize what's trending and popular. I'm your host, Jeanette Schneider. Back with me to continue our conversation about all things new construction is Nathan Boji. He is a manager with REMAX Classic. Again, we're broadcasting from a model that Nathan's working on in Canton, and I think it's always fun to see the models, because everything's definitely clean, everything's kind of got the latest and greatest. So I guess talk to me a little bit about that. New construction, I think a lot of us, when we think new construction, we think 2-story, maybe the 3-story if you've got the walkout basement, 2,500 square foot homes. Is that still what's popular? Are you seeing anything vary from that these days?
So it's interesting that segment of the 2,500 2-story, that sort of thing. It's always going to be needed and always going to have a demand. But a really interesting segment of the new construction market that has a definite need to be built is ranch homes. The baby boomer generation is still very strong as far as buying power and out in the real estate market, and they're downsizing from the homes that they've raised, had a bunch of kids living in, or whatever the case might be, and they're tired of keeping up with the 2,500, 3,500, 4 or 5 bedroom, cutting the grass, raking the leaves, doing the snow, or even trying to have the hassle of hiring that out. And they want to downsize. They want to get everything on one floor. They want to get rid of the stairs. They want to not have to worry about it if they're traveling, in the winter months or whatever the case might be. So the ranch home market, new construction ranch homes we've seen quite a big demand, which is partly why we have two developments that do a fantastic job at filling that void here in Canton. We have ranch homes that range from about 1,400 square feet on up to just over 2,000. And then, 2 and 3 bedrooms, and it's been really great. And then we found a lot of people that are excited that they're available because we're building them with today's style. It's not your traditional 1950s ranch where it's tight hallways, small closets, the laundry's still in the basement, that type of things. Everything you need is on one floor. It's spacious, it's comfortable, but it's not so overwhelming that you have to worry about it.
No, and I think you bring up a good point, because when you said kind of the 1950s ranch model, I'm going to hearken to my parents live in a ranch home, and that is it. It's kind of that narrow hallway down the hall. The bedrooms are all off of that, and it's kind of cavernous, on that end, and that's kind of the model I think of. Yeah. I'm sitting in one of your ranch models. That's not at all how that feels.
No, and that's the thing. We've gone with a very open concept, and it's worked very well because that's what people want. People are, they don't want that segmented home where this person's in that room, that person's in this room. People are entertaining, they're having folks over, they want to have space to do that in and be comfortable. And then they also want to have space to put their stuff. Let's face it, we have a lot more stuff these days than we used to. So storage capacity is important, and the little teeny tiny closets that we used to get in the houses just don't work anymore.
So again, just kind of one last question on kind of features. We talked a little bit about open design, storage being popular. Yep. Is there anything else that you see that buyers are looking for that builders like to put in these homes?
Yeah, so super popular stuff is, the solid surface countertops, quartz, quartzite, granite. Those are all super popular still. One of the really neat things that we do, and one of the developments that a lot of builders do that are participating in Parade Homes is drop zones. So you come in out of the garage and there's a mudroom area that's built out. It's got the cubbies, the coat hooks, a spot to sit down and take your shoes off or put your shoes on, and kind of keep all the clutter that you'd normally drag through the house when you're coming home from work or school or whatever it is. Kind of keep it tucked away and out of everybody's hair. So the drop zones are pretty popular. A lot of times they refer to them as command centers. And that's even where you might have a little desk area with a computer or so forth, where you kind of tuck all the mail away and get the bills paid and that fun stuff.
No, and I love that because, I technically have a mud room in my house, but,
Sure.
The washer and dryer are there. So there's really no, I have to be an ostrich, taking off the shoes on one leg because I don't have a drop zone.
Right.
And I think if you're not in the market for new construction, this could be another good reason to come out and take a look at homes and see what is trending today.
It is. Builders, they take what they do very seriously. So they put a lot of time and effort and money into making sure that their model homes are meeting today's standards and what people are looking for. So they are hiring professional designers to come in and stage the homes, to pick out color schemes and the materials and all this type of stuff. So if you're thinking of renovating, we'd love you to buy a new house, but you could get some pretty good ideas from us too.
You're awesome. Well, I wanted to cover a couple of things because you say buying new construction. There are 3 kind of common pitfalls or hiccups, for lack of a better word, that folks can encounter. The first one, I think, has to do with making changes late in the process. Can you just share a little bit how folks can avoid having that happen?
Yeah, absolutely. So a big part of building a new house is picking out all the things that you want to go in it. And when you're doing that, you want to really give it some thought, because the things that you select and that you put down on paper and you sign off on, it's really tough to make changes after certain points. And tough in a sense of, 1, they might not be able to be done. 2, could get pretty expensive, especially if you're having to really take something out that you've already said you wanted in and replace. But also, there's management, that is involved in these changes, and the builder incurs extra costs, and they're going to pass them on to you. So really know what you want to put in the house. Take some time to think about it. Spend some time talking with the builder's representatives, the folks that are helping you make your selections, and make sure that you've got it all down when you sign on the bottom line. So that way, you're not getting any surprises. And if there's just something that you're losing sleep over and you need to make a change, understand there could be extra cost associated with that.
Okay. Second pitfall had to do with timing your move. We talked a little bit before about it's taken about 7 to 10 months on average from permit to get home built. How can somebody, kind of plan the timing of maybe getting rid of an existing home or, putting that home on the market to kind of time this out?
A great question. I see people handle this in 2 different ways. One, we have the folks that are like, we're just going to sell the existing house right now, get out of it, not have to worry about it. We're going to do temporary housing. We're going to rent for a year, or we're going to live with Aunt Sue or something like that. And then when the new house is done, we'll just move in there. So they get rid of the house immediately. And that also frees up a lot of funds too, because oftentimes people have quite a bit of equity in their existing home, and they use that to build a new home. The other route that I see folks go is they just time it out. They put the house on the market, depending on where you're at and what your market time frame is, 60, 90 days ahead of time. They get it sold. Sometimes it sells really quick, so you got to think about occupancy, so renting your previous home back from the new owner for a certain amount of time. But that's kind of how we see it done. The biggest key to that is communicating with your builder, understanding where they're at in the timeline. Are we on track? Are we seeing delays? And being informed, so that way you can make a good decision on what you need to do.
All right. Third pitfall was being unrealistic about budget. Some of that might go to your previous thing about not changing mind late in the process, but I'm guessing there's more to it than just that.
Absolutely. Building a house is a very exciting thing. There's a lot of shiny objects, and sometimes they grab our attention. So one of the ways I find that helps people get through this process and stay within budget is, one, determine your budget. Talk with your realtor. Figure out, sitting down with your lender, finding out what you can be pre-approved for, what you can afford. Then get with your builder's representative, and go through all the selections. Make a wants list. Everything that you want, look at that number. If that number makes sense, great. And if it's in your budget, great. You're getting everything you want. If not, take a step back, look at the things that you actually need, and then get those, and then see what else you might be able to fit in your budget, and then move forward. Oftentimes when somebody comes in and says, oh, we want to spend $200,000, $300,000 on a house, I say, okay, great. Plan for a 10% overage, because it does happen. There's certain things that you might think are just going to be in the house. They're going to come just standard, and they don't, and you have to pay a little bit extra money for them.
Okay, gotcha. And then real quick, base price on a house, because there's base, and then there's, when we're talking base price, is that kind of a uniform? It's going to come with this certain things, or is that something you really need to dig into with your
Absolutely.
Builder?
Every builder is different on the base price. So you have, you're going to have the base price. So if you just walk into a builder's model and you say, I want blank floor plan, and I don't want to do anything else to it, you're going to pay the base price, and you're going to get what they give you. So you really need to find out what their standard features are. And then from there, you can find out what things you can do extra.
Alrighty. Well, thanks to Nathan for tackling the topic of new construction. Again, that's Nathan Boji with REMAX Classic, and hosting us out at one of the model homes that's part of the Parade of Home events going on now through the end of June. To find a complete list of the homes available, you can go to paradehba.com. Next, are you looking for a reason to go out to Topgolf this summer out in Auburn Hills? A local REMAX agent is hosting a fundraising event at Topgolf to raise money for CMN hospitals and some local kids. More of the REMAX Real Estate Insight Show is coming up next here on 760 WJR.